We finally did it.
We're
here.
off and running. We are off to the races, shall they say.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
As we've talked about off camera, putting together this video series to interview some interesting people in Melrose.
We're still looking for that person. I can't believe it's me.
And I'm hoping
sure
that
there is somebody out there.
I'm hoping you might help me find that person. The idea is that by introducing people within the community to other interesting people, that in some small way it might help to strengthen community ties and have an overall positive impact on the community.
And it sounds like a great way for them to meet your neighbors and have a positive impact with everybody meeting each other in the community.
You sound like a commercial. That's great. I might use that audio. I've known you for a long time. You're a friend of mine. I do find you interesting. So in terms of the criteria of having interesting people, you're checking all the boxes. You live here in Melrose.
Yeah.
You have a wife and children
in Melrose.
That one is out of the Melrose school system, off to college.
Right. Melrose school system did him great justice, and he's down in North Carolina at Elon. It's
the other two are still within the Melrose school system.
One's graduating on her way to Worcester State to pursue a running career and a teaching career. And one is still in the school system in Melrose working on doing some ballet. With the support of the school, we leave every day at 11 to do that.
You're a business owner.
Business owner, yep. Living the American dream every day here in Melrose.
You own 0600 Conditioning here in Melrose, but also you've been working for National Grid for over 30 years. Is that right?
I'll be 30 years this June, actually.
Years.
And it was Boston Gas. If everybody still associates us with Boston Gas, then we were Keyspan Energy, and now we are National Grid, yeah.
That is amazing. 30 years. Wow.
I think it's amazing, too. I'm still there.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about 0600 Conditioning?
We've been a anchor in the fitness business here in Melrose for probably 11 to 12 years. We started out of my trunk, and I used to do a boot camp style class up at Mount Hood with the Rex department standing behind us. And then we moved to a church in the wintertime on Franklin Street, and then we moved to Pine Banks Park. And then push came to shove, and it was time to find my own facility. So I ended up at the Marty's Furniture Complex down there on 99 Washington Street. And we have a 2,800 square feet space. We've brought in the facility up to a level of a world-class training facility right here in Melrose that people come every day and every morning.
I almost forgot. I also know you're a beer aficionado.
Well, I've had a beer or two here in my life.
So I have two beers with me. I know you've probably had them both before. One is Lord Hobo, and that's they're out of Woburn, and Mystic. Mystic's out of Woburn. Oh no, Mystic's out of Chelsea. Lord Hobo is out of Woburn.
I'll actually try the Mystic because the water in Chelsea is so much refreshing than the water in Woburn. So hopefully they brew it that way.
Is that still a thing? That's years ago.
That's years ago. They've cleaned that whole thing up.
I hope so. So yeah, good. Let me ask you this: when a new client comes into your gym, do you tell them that you're a little bit crazy? And let me just tell.
Well, go ahead then.
Well, I've done a little bit of research here. Tell me if this is true, and I know this is not complete, but you have done 8 full marathons, right?
That's true.
That's true? Okay. Tell me this. Have you done 5 trail runs?
That's true.
All right, so I didn't know this before, but a trail run...
Trail marathon.
Trail marathon. Oh, okay. I thought, all right.
It's same distance.
Over
dirt.
So
and rocks and gravel and stone, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like India, you're jumping over snakes.
If there's snakes, yeah. Turtles.
Okay. Turtles.
We've seen snakes, turtles, badgers, foxes. We've seen them all.
Okay. So 8 marathons, 5 trail marathons.
Yeah.
Which, do you use normal, regular sneakers on this?
No, actually the trail marathon the trail industry has really grown. It's a little bit more rugged of a sneaker. You could use your trail shoes on the road, but you wouldn't want to. So you could get away with road shoes. It's just a little more gnarly, like you would think you would need to deal with the rugged terrain here. Okay,
and so you've also done a 50-mile road race. And here's the kicker. If that wasn't enough, you did 103.4-mile road race.
Trail race.
This was a trail race.
That was a trail race down in Virginia. I mean, and Tara, our other trainer, we trained up for that.
Oh, that's not nearly as impressive.
No. If
it was a road race, I would have thought 103.4 miles was impressive. But since it's a trail race, forget about it.
We trained up to that for probably a good 2.5 years and got ourselves qualified to go to the hardest, well, at the time, the hardest 100-miler on the East Coast. And we went down there and just went for a little run.
How does one do, and I haven't even touched upon your triathlons, because I know you did at least a half
Ironman,
a trial.
up to half Ironman, yep.
Half Ironman.
Off-road triathlons, too.
Right.
If there's something stupid out
there's
there,
not
I've
enough
done
time.
it.
I don't have enough time to go through this full list.
It's foolish.
But I think I've at least confirmed, given enough information to know that there's something a little off about you.
There's a little off.
Okay.
I might be an A- type person. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is.
An underachiever.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to your gym here. You kind of mentioned a little bit of the location, the building, but what type of fitness do you do there?
We do a little bit of everything. A lot of cross training. We were runners. We came to it from running. We saw a need for the runners to have some strength. So then we went out and sought out some modes of strength training, kettlebells, dumbbells. We've graduated to straight bars. We do a lot of high intensity, timed workouts, weights, treadmills, rowers. There's so much to learn out there. We're always constantly changing our philosophies. Our clients are changing, whether they're doing obstacle course races or endurance running races. Some of us have done some snowshoe racing. Some of us are going to move back to triathlon and road bike racing. So that's a different strength set. So we kind of have always evolved around what needs to be done. We learned what we need to learn. We'd go seek other professionals to teach us we need to bring this back to our people. And we have a nice, rock solid community at our place. And most of our clients have been there 8, 10, 11 years.
As you know, we shot some footage of your gym, and I don't even know if you've seen it.
I have not seen it yet. I can't wait.
Let's cut to it right now. Here we go.
It's going to look great. I hope. Can't wait. Wow, Justin, that was unbelievable footage. Like, so good from Mo getting up in the morning. Where were you, in the bushes? I didn't see you out there. Filming me getting in there, and then the workout was great. And geez, I looked like I was actually really doing something in some of those moves. It was very impressive. Great job with that video.
This is part of my hobby. I enjoy doing video production, and
I have to say, kudos to you. It looks unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
Captured everything
it's
greatly.
not my best work, and I'll tell you why. Although you told all your members that I was coming down there, I didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable.
Well, if you
with
saw me
filming.
lifting in that video, I was kind of uncomfortable myself, so it did kind of look that way.
So I kind of stood back a little bit, but I think we got some decent footage.
No,
and
it looks great. You got a couple of our trainers in there. It was really a good footage. Yeah, it was
yeah,
great.
no. So I mean, I love the look and feel of your gym, because when you see it, it's very obvious that this is not some kind of corporate gym.
No.
It's very homegrown, and everything in there, it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Most of it's custom made. Yeah, most of it was custom made to fit the space, to save every square foot we can in the space, because we don't want to get a bigger space. That would cost us more money that we'd have to pass off to our consumers. It just works.
Nothing in your gym seems cookie cutter whatsoever.
No, it's all self-discovery, that what we feel they need, what our clients need, right across the board. For me and the other trainers, we all put the client's needs first. Like, this is what we believe they need, and we're lucky our group has been together. They tend to stay and work together in almost the same projects. We have several this year training for a big, their first big, really hardcore trail race. Seven Sisters out in the western part of the state. It's nothing to sneeze at. They'll be down there on Sunday mornings doing some box step-ups. And they're like, what are runners doing box step-ups for? Because we need that leg strength for that style race. So that's run by our other trainer, Tara Diebel. She's another local girl. And she's doing a great job. And everybody seems to be always gravitating to us for, I need something more. What's next? Yeah. We dial in what's next. We figure it out.
Tara's a sweetheart. She's nice.
She's great. She's
very
great.
Warm and friendly. And then you have Enrico, who's another trainer.
Enrico is another trainer. He rents space from us, but he's been great, added to the clientele that comes there. He's brought a lot of people from out of town. He has a huge Olympic background, very knowledgeable in nutrition, and very dedicated towards people's success in general. And then we have Sarah Gruden, who also teaches. She works with our prenatal group. She went out and figured she had her first baby and had a tough time coming back into the fitness, and she went out and sought out a prenatal certification, and now she runs 2 prenatal classes a week at 0600 too. So it's another reach out to the community of a group in the community that needs that. That's what they need. They need this fitness level, and they need to come together as a community in a group to be like, you know what, I'm struggling too. What do we need to do to get forward? And that's what it's always about. You know.
Again, can anyone come to your gym? Is there age? Is there a certain age, or do you have to be in a certain level of fitness? You
don't really need to be in a certain level of fitness. Age, we tend to have an older clientele because that's who's willing to make the dedication. No, you can come in. Our people have been with me so long. That's an advantage we have, is we can actually work with a newbie right at the same time with someone who's been there 6 or 7 years, because the person who's been there 6 or 7 years understands what we're talking about quicker and faster and knows what we expect of them. I can keep an eye on them, and I can work with the newbie. So a lot of newbies actually find it very comforting to come in and be like, oh, geez, I don't know what's going on. And I just give them just hold on a second. Let's get everybody else going. And then we're going to give you the individual attention you need. And if you need more individual attention, of course, we could personal train with you at any time if you want. Some people choose to do that too. Works
all right. So I come into your gym, I'm vastly out of shape, and I feel intimidated by all the in shape people here that I saw, in your video. How do I come in there?
And you have to remember, all those people, before they came in, they were in the same shape as you were. Okay. So they got there. Yeah. And sometimes some of them come for personal training. Some of them come with a small group, and some of them just say, well, I'm just going to deal with it for a few days, a few weeks. And they do. And they just deal with it. And we're like, yeah, that's what you're going to have to do. Like, build the regimen of coming first, then build the regimen of getting some strength. And then if you want to get your diet under control, we can talk about that. So it's a lifelong investment, and that's what we want. We want people who are like, all right, they put their fitness in our hands at 0600, and we kind of take it serious. Like, look, we know you're going to be here. I mean, my longest client has been here since the day I started at Mount Hood, and has not left yet, ever.
So some people come in and they start with one-on-one training? Some
start with one-on-one 2 times a week. Some do about 4 weeks of that. Then I say, you know what, you should just get into class, because class is a good value. Like, the value is in class, and I know everybody has mortgages and kids payments and soccer games and time restraints. So we try to get them in there fast, but some clients tend to stick with personal training because they like the big goal setting. So that's where personal training comes in, that, you know what, I'm running my first marathon. I really need some goals. Or I'm thinking of doing my first Tough Mudder. We try to get people to reach out of their comfort zone, because that's where progress is made, whether you're in IT, whether you're in fitness, whether you're in business, is when you reach out of your comfort zone. That's what all this is about. And that's where the progress is made.
So how does one run 103.4? Is this all in one spurt? I mean, is this over a course of, 3 months?
No, it was over the course of 34 hours. 34 hours and 2 minutes is what it was over the course of.
34 hours and 2 minutes.
Right.
So where was this?
This was down in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. It's called Mount Massanutten.
And we went
up a mountain and down a mountain and up a mountain and down a mountain and up a mountain and down a mountain. It was in May of about 5 years ago. Yeah, it was quite impressive. And Tara has gone on to run more 100-milers than me. She has actually, I believe, 300-milers under her belt.
I hope to have her on.
Yeah, she would be a character to have on here for you. You'd enjoy that. You would enjoy that.
So how do you train for this? How do you prepare? What do you do the day before? Tell me the whole.
It's actually it's not much different than like someone who's doing a 12-mile, a half marathon or a full marathon. There's training plans that are written. You just follow them, and you literally follow. We had a running coach, a professional triathlete, a professional endurance running coach at the time, who weeded us through some of the project. But we also belong to a running club up in Topsail that has multiple 100-milers. So we had them to reach out to be like, what should we be doing? And all that for a belt buckle. That's the big goal. If you finish your 100-miler, you get a belt buckle. So now I have a 100-mile belt buckle. So looks really good holding my pants up. What can I say? That's why I wanted it.
And so how long did it take you to train?
I would say we had to train up to qualify. And then after we qualified, and the funny thing is we qualified at a 50-mile race. And when we registered, there was some crazy math formula to see who gets in the race. And Tara got in the race. I wasn't in the race yet. I said, well, you know what? We're going to keep training, because I was on a waiting list. And then I actually got in the race 2 weeks prior to it. Was when they finally said, all right, the last slots are open. Do you want the slot? You can have the slot. So I didn't have a number up until 2 weeks before the race.
What do you eat the night before? I'm sorry to go.
You eat whatever you want.
This is just fascinating to me.
You just eat whatever you want. You just eat rice, and you need protein, and then you have to eat all through the race. You're eating sugar all through the race. And we ate hot dogs and stuff that you wouldn't think you were eating. We were eating hot dogs and potatoes and salt and hydration fuel and gels, and it's an amazing undertaking. Actually, at the time of we were doing, I totally forgot this, we were being watched by a girl who was writing a paper on, she was writing a nutritional paper on ultra runners, and we had to keep track of our calories for one of our training blocks. And she's like, you guys aren't even eating enough. Like, you need to eat, 700 more calories a day. I'm like, well, where am I supposed to find 700 calories more a day? So that's when I started eating muffins. And I would eat 2 muffins at a time and pick up 700 calories. Yeah, like we
right.
Like,
so you couldn't get
enough fuel because you were always either running or sleeping. Is basically what you were doing. Like it's really a vicious circle, but you had to time your runs. And
so there was sleep in between. So you took little cat naps? Or?
Well, we actually pulled into after mile 67. We crossed some road in Virginia, and I remember we got in a couple lawn chairs and we were watching the watches, and Tara's like, we don't have time to sleep. I'm like, no, we don't. And I looked over, and she was asleep already, because we were already at this point, I think we're heading into the 18-hour mark at this point. We had still a long time to go. So I said to one of the ladies who was working in ultra running, they're not water stops, they're aid stations. So there's food and all that. And I said, hey, can you just watch us for 15 minutes so we can go to sleep? And she's like, yeah, sure. You guys should go to sleep. And we went to sleep for 15 minutes. And then the lady came over and woke us up, and she's like, is there anything you guys want? And randomly, I remember, I think it was Tara who said, can I brush my teeth? The lady's like, absolutely. And she pulled out 2 toothbrush. Here we are. I think at this point, we left for the race at like 3:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. This is like 1:30 in the morning the next day. We're brushing our teeth. And then we were off to go get the next 20 to 30 miles. Like it was crazy. It was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And
so how do you recover? What is it like, I guess, first of all, crossing the line? Did you cross the line at the same time?
You crossed the line, but you're just so exhausted. Like you really don't get to drink it in. That's the shame of the whole thing. Like you're just so physically beat down. Like the course we had was very, very hard. Like it was known for being the hard one. And it was like, you chose that as your first one. We're like, well, it's the only one we could get to, like that's the one we got into. And it was just mind-bendingly hard. Like,
so did your wife, who was at the finish line?
No, we actually could just go there, just the two of us, because like we couldn't, the way that the week worked, we couldn't get people there. And we just went, the two of us. We had no support crew. Some people bring support crew. We just went and did it, and people helped us along the way. We met, and they called us Boston when we come in. We were the only guys from Boston, so we'd come in and like, oh, Boston's in the house, and they'd help you with your stuff, like load your bag, fill your water pack. People would bring our clothing forward because you have to bring clothes through the middle of the night to change into because the temperature swings.
And the finish line.
The finish line, yeah, it was just like, you just got there and was like, I can't believe it.
You were pretty much alone at the finish line?
Yeah, well, no, there was other people there. People we met along the way was there, so it was great enough. But it was just, you're just so tired. The accomplishment was so massive. You're like, and we were up for 34 hours straight, never mind the hour ride to the race. And it was just like, you didn't know what to do with yourself. Like, you were just like, I'm just tired. I know I'm just tired. So you just couldn't wait to shower. I hadn't showered in 34 hours. It was like almost 38 hours. Like, it was insane. It was really an insane feat. And I've gone on to pace people. That's what I enjoy doing. Like, other friends of mine have run 100 miles. And I've paced them. You pick them up at like mile 18 or 20 and you run through the night with them as they struggle with some of the challenges that come up in these races. And yeah, so it's a crazy little world. It's a dark little world of running out there. And I got pulled in early and I enjoy it. And it's been great. Yeah, it's been great.
That's just amazing.
Yeah. Right outside of Melrose, the reason it really happened, I have to say, is probably because we have the Fellsway right here. It butts almost the whole city of Melrose, not the whole, but a majority of Melrose. So you could run to the woods and just run in the woods. We would run over to the other side of Medford. We would run to Winchester. We'd run loops in the woods. And that is a predominant fact, because we were in Melrose, made it that much easier to become ultra trail runners, because the woods were right here in Melrose. Like,
I mean, I can't even, it's hard to even imagine. And
it was a goal. You set out on goals, and sometimes that's what people need to learn. Mm-hmm. Anything is obtainable. There's going to be failures along the way, but you just have to keep persevering and moving forward.
Right. So at your gym, you train people that are not only kind of doing these huge achievements, but also people that are just looking to get in shape.
Yeah, people are just looking to get in shape. Like, people are like,
but you can do all of that, right?
We can, because we've come from that field. We understand the mental side of it, which is really what holds a lot of people back. And we understand the struggles. Like, we all have 3 kids. We all have 2 kids. All the trainers have children in our place. So like, we're no different than anybody else. We have stay-at-home mothers who are trainers. We have me with 2 jobs as a trainer. Like, I'm a hard person to convince you can't find the time and energy to do it, because I can find the time and energy to do it. It's just a matter of, do you want to find it?
So where did this all start? So I think you told me, growing up as a kid, your family had a sporting goods store?
Yeah, my father actually owned a established sporting goods store in Malden, Chisholm Sporting Goods, and a lot of people know that name. It's not gone to the dust yet. But yeah, so my father was involved in sporting goods. He was like probably an MVP of the day. They sold, or a sports authority. He sold tennis rackets and skis and hockey equipment. And anybody who's older than me or my age is going to be like, oh yeah, I have a shirt from Chisholm Sports. Like, he had a world-class softball team. He used to run skiing trips. So I guess that's where I kind of got it and kind of saw it and enjoyed it. But I myself have never been like a world-class athlete. Don't think I'm a world-class athlete. I was never an unbelievable high school athlete. I was just a run-of-the-mill athlete. That's all I was. But I enjoyed the learning, the dedication it took, and the willing to fail and succeed, because they go hand in hand. It's both on both sides of the fence. You're going to fail to succeed, and you're going to succeed, and then you're going to fail, and you're going to be able to move forward. And I enjoy that part of it. Like, yeah. So that's where it kind of started in 1969, August 4th. That's when it started, the day I was born. Like, I was put right into it, whether I liked it or not, you know.
You were almost still a kid when you joined National Grid, right?
Yeah, I was 19 when I joined National Grid.
Right, so you're at the sporting goods store.
Worked there part-time with my father. I have the skill to fix a gas leak and lace a baseball glove and string a tennis racket and sharpen skis. I know it all. I know all of that. Not because I needed to learn it. It just was one of those things. I started sharpening skis in my father's store at 11 years old, to make money.
Do you, bring a truck with you when you go out on your visits, or do you just run to whoever needs gas repairs?
I've actually, well, we won't tell Nash Good, but I have run home from a few gas jobs here and there.
And then you started getting into some other sports, right? Because we talked about ultra running, these marathons, but
that wasn't my mainstay. It didn't start off there. I was always kind of like a guy who went to the Y. I had done some lifting in high school. Then I did a little bit of kickboxing, where I met some other interesting individuals.
You did kickboxing. This is before you were married.
Before I was
when
married,
you're still living in Malden.
I dabbled in kickboxing about a year and a half. Yeah, I got to work under a guy, Richie Vasapola, who was a probably a little bit older than me, but he was an established kickboxer, had a nice practice. He went on to do some triathlons. So it was kind of, these people always kind of surrounded me. Like, I'm like, oh, triathlons, what's that? Mm-hmm. And then I left it for a while. Then when I came back to it, I came back to running. And one of my supervisors actually at National Grid was a 100-miler. That's what kind of like got me into it. Like, well, what's that like, Steve? He's like, well, just go out and run 100 miles. That's what it's like. I'm like, oh, that's pretty simple. So I always was inspired by other people, like, oh, maybe I could do that.
And how many years did you do kickboxing?
About a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah, pretty good. I got to work. I worked with, there was Dana Rosenblatt at the time, was a professional boxer, kickboxer. Mm-hmm. He was doing really well. He was a well-named, known, coming out of Malden, and he did really good. I got to actually train with him. He's a little bit younger than me, but yeah, it was a very great time. It was a great time.
But then you decided to move to Melrose, or you were looking for houses in Melrose. This is right after you got married, or right
probably
before?
About 2 years after I got married.
Yeah, 2 years
we
after.
started deciding, you know what, we're making enough money. We want to start to get ready to have a family. Where should we look? We looked at several other options for towns, but I didn't want to be far from work. So we looked in Melrose. We looked at 67 houses in Melrose. At the time, there was a lot on the market. Like
67 houses.
67 houses in Melrose.
Now, this is before Zillow,
this is way before
Realtor.com.
Zillow. Yeah, this is before you called the realtor, use the Sunday paper, you'd go to open houses, yeah.
Wow.
And I bought
that alone sounds, I don't know what's more tiring. I mean, I think I'd rather run a marathon than look at 60.
It felt like some weeks it felt like running a marathon. It really did. And, but we got the house we wanted, and it needed a lot of work. I did what the American dream is, buy the worst house on the best street, and that's what I did. And I just got lucky.
When you decided to move to Melrose, you didn't have any children. Was that kind of something you were thinking of ahead of time?
Yeah, first we decided we'd get a house and kind of get settled, and then, bring the offspring in, shall we say.
Now, did you consider the Melrose school system?
Yeah, we were very happy with Melrose. One of the things we really liked about Melrose was that we always vowed not to send our kids to private schools. Not that there's anything wrong, but we're like, if we're going to pay the price to live in a good town, then we needed a good school system. And my wife's a school teacher too, so Melrose fit the bill. We're like, you know what? It's close to where I work. It's close to our family. And that's what kind of kept us here. And we liked the environment. And we were very comfortable because we literally lived a town away. It wasn't like we didn't know Melrose at all. There was still Friendly's on Main Street. A lot of people probably won't remember that, but there was Friendly's on Main Street.
Well, my mother grew up in Melrose.
Right.
So she tells me stories. She'd been by here recently and said how a lot of things have changed.
Oh, a lot of changes. Good change, positive change.
Yes. Right. So far, you've been telling me about kind of growing up with your family that owned the sporting goods store. You did kickboxing, but I'm looking for that moment where insanity came in, because so if I haven't,
insanity.
I'm looking through my notes and I don't know where someone goes from doing kickboxing and working out to deciding one day in the future, I'm going to run 103 miles. 103.4 mile. But let me ask you that. Why 0.4? Is that 103.4 as opposed to just 103?
Because it's a little nasty trick in the ultra running world. You never really run 100 miles.
Okay.
Like, you always run over 100 miles. I remember during the race we came to, because it's a barbaric situation, a pie plate that said, mile 99. And we were traveling with two other people at this time. We picked up two other people we were traveling with. And I remember Tara looked at the guy and she said, oh my God, we have 1 mile to go. And he's like, well, not really. And she's like, well, what do you mean not really? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, it's never 100 miles. It's always a little bit more. And she's like, that's an awful trick. How far is it? He goes, I don't know. So we had to keep going until we actually got to the finish, and it was 103.4 miles. Yeah.
Tell me, was there a moment? Was there a particular moment? So you moved to Melrose.
There is a particular moment.
Is there something like a turning point?
And it's no different than anybody else who walks in my gym. Mm-hmm. One day you wake up and say, you know what? I've had enough of where I am. Like, it's time for me to get this together. So I would say, yeah, I did have that moment. I know people don't think that now, but there was a point when I was a lot heavier. I was working a lot. I was stressed a lot. I had a new family. I was working in a house. I just had a baby. Mm-hmm. And so it would be 2001, New Year's Eve. I jumped on the scale the next morning, and I was a weight that I didn't like and wasn't happy with.
So it was January 1st, 2001. Mm-hmm.
Weighing 191 at my heaviest ever, high blood pressure, the whole shooting match.
Okay. And so
the same as everybody who walks in my gym has. Like, I'm not different than the other person. Like, I'm no different than anybody else at this point in time. So
now, was there anybody that some outside influence that made you feel that way, or was this something personal to you?
It was just personal. Like, I just would be heavy breathing coming up the stairs. I was always tired. I was what every person who comes to my gym looking for the change when they're finally ready for the change is going through. Mm-hmm. It's time to change before this gets drastically worse. You know, here you are at 35, 34, and they're talking about putting on blood pressure medication. You're like, wait a second. I can't be going on blood pressure medication. Like, oh, no, you're going to be. So I had to get my diet under control and do all that stuff. And I just didn't physically feel or like the way I was feeling at that point in time. So, and I had a baby, I have a family to take. I have to be responsible for this stuff. I mean, I have to be responsible. So that was the turning point, was New Year's morning that day at 191. And I wrote it on the shelves don't exist in my basement right now, but I actually wrote it on the shelves. And so I started running, and I took sugar out of my coffee. I'd get 3 coffees a day regular, and I took sugar out. And then when a little bit of weight came off, I took cream out of my coffee and got to drinking black. Nothing prolific here, people. Nothing that nobody else hasn't told you to do.
Sure.
Like, the fitness industry is not about telling people what you have to do. It's like, it's the simple things that change. So that's what I kind of did. And then things got better through the summer. I think by the time the summer came around, I was like down 13 pounds. And I'm like, wow, that's not so bad. Mm-hmm. So then, the summer was a great summer. That summer, people remember, I got a new baby. It's great. There's houses I'm painting. I'm doing everything still, but I have the diet under control. I'm working when I need to work. My wife doesn't have to go back to work because we're raising the kids. And then September 11th happens. Everybody remembers September 11th. It was a tragic day. And we're kind of like, wow, like nobody slept. It was a quiet night. Remember, they had all air traffic control had stopped.
Sure,
it was absolutely. A quiet like never before. Like, in our lifetimes, me, you, Justin, anybody our age group, we were always used to the planes being up there. You're used to that noise. You didn't hear that. So I got up the next morning to go for a run, and I kind of was like, you know what? I don't know if it was the tragedy that, so much loss has happened, but I remember I was coming right around the bend by Wyoming Cemetery. There's a place where there's a phone box. I remember being right there, and I remember the fighter pilots were there providing air security for the country. We're down so low, I could almost feel like I could look right into the pilot's eyes. And I'm saying, you know what? Something needs to change here for myself for the better, for good. And I said, so if I can run 10 miles by January, at the end of the year, I'll run the Boston Marathon. And I kept working at it. I followed the plan, and I got to 10 miles on January 31st and said, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to run the Boston Marathon. And then from there, it just took off. I did what I could. I ran as a bandit back in the days when you could run as a bandit. When I ran it at 165. So I was down almost 35 pounds from my goal, from my original weight. And it felt really good. And I did a decent enough time. I mean, not great, but good enough, and got it done. There's been lulls in my career, but I went on to do another marathon after my father-in-law died for Dana-Farber. So I got a number through Dana-Farber. I did do the fundraising for that. And then I did another marathon for just as a bandit again. I did another marathon with the Boston Police. I've brought 2 or 3 people in on their first marathon, picked them up at mile 8 or 10. I went one year to hit a qualifying time, and at mile 20, I blew the whole thing apart and pretty much had to walk in. And I was also there, unfortunately, on the day, which was a great day for the Tara who works with us. That was the day we set out to get her a qualifying number. So me and 2 other runners said, we're going to go with you and we'll help you get this goal. And I ran with her to mile 20. So then a new fresh runner came into mile 20 and picked her up and brought her in, and she qualified that day, which is a major accomplishment to qualify for Boston at Boston. And I literally came in, like, because he got to take her, I got to just relax and run the last 6 miles in, and I took my time, and I got my best time ever too that day. And then 9 minutes later is when I said, oh, there's all of our kids, and Tara's kids were here. My kids were going to Finagle Bagel, and unfortunately we heard the bombs go off. And we were on the street. Yeah, we were 9 minutes behind. I finished 9 minutes ahead of the first explosion.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a crazy.
You were running the marathon the
that
day of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah. It's a crazy day. And friends of ours were in the crowd, and my wife was in the crowd, but she came down some back alley that someone said, oh, go down the alley and you'll go all the way down to the finish. And yeah, it was crazy. We were there. Like, still was an unbelievable situation. Like.
And you said, how many minutes was it?
9 minutes after we finished. We literally finished.
You finished, and 9 minutes later.
We walked down the street, and I remember because it was me and a guy, Gary Pizzigio, and Tara, and Tara's looking for her family, and I'm looking for my family. They're kind of together, but, you know, it's a chaotic scene at the end. And I remember the first explosion went off, and there was a Boston police officer there, and he said, oh, my God, one of the manholes just exploded. I said, I work for utility. That's not a manhole explosion. And then whatever time frame later, the next one went off. And
so were you by the public garden area?
Not even quite that far. We were down, I don't know the exact street, but where the Finagle Bagel was.
Okay, right on Boylston?
Yeah, we were still on Boylston.
We're still on Boylston.
On the time. Yeah, we had, like, they had finished, I don't know, 6 minutes ahead of me, 10 minutes ahead of me. So they were waiting for me on the curb. I sat down for 2 minutes. I said, well, let's get out of here. And yeah, we were right on Boylston at the time. And I remember my son came out. We heard he heard the explosion, so he came because they had just walked in. He looked out. He said, "Go get everybody and let's go." And we all walked over.
This is your son.
My son.
So who set the scene here?
My wife. You
finished. You go across the finish line.
Yeah.
And your wife is there with your son.
We hooked back up with Tara and Gary because they've already finished ahead of me. She qualified that year, and then Tara's family's there and my family's there. And
your family, no, you have 3 children. So who was there? It was all
my
3?
Wife, all 3 kids, and then they had 2 kids with them, 2 of their friends with them.
And you're still on Boylston.
We're still on Boylston Street at this time,
and you're kind of recovering, right?
Yeah,
even though you've done this a lot of,
yeah.
But it's still, no matter how many times you've done it, I'm sure you're exhausted. After
you're tired, you're beat up, you're trying to figure the whole thing out, like trying to find your family to be like, all right, we got to get moving. Where are we going to eat? What are we going to do next? Type thing. And yeah, then the explosions happened, and I remember we took a quick left and we got ourselves to the Taj. Well, I think it's the Taj now. At the time, it might not have been. You can start to feel the hubbub, like people are moving around quickly. And I'm like, we need to get away and don't go near certain structures. And,
sure,
you know, like it's time. Something's a problem. There's a big problem here. We need to get away. So she took all the kids in the car and they got back to Melrose.
Now, where was the car parked?
Our cars are all back at Oak Grove or something like that. So this was a.
So did you get? You got on the subway?
They got in a cab. We got them in a cab, and my wife took all the kids back. I said, "You get out of town now," and nobody really knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then we set forth across the common to Gary's wife, was working in the financial district.
And so your son is the oldest, right?
Yeah.
And so he was at the time.
I would think he was probably. He might have been 6th grade then. I don't know.
So were they shooken up? I mean, I guess
they actually weren't too bad. Like nobody really understood what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then I have to say, you know, when we came home, we had to sit down and explain to them, this is what happened. This is what's going on. There's nothing to worry about. And we were back in Boston because what they did was they held up marathon number giving out, and they wanted to clear the scene. So we made an adamant point to go back on the Thursday of that week. We could go pick up our number. And it was really good because the federal government's in town at this point, the FBI, the streets were closed down, but we could go and show them where we were, that look, the authorities are doing what they need to do. Wow. And we could go in and we got to cross. They had an official finish line in one of the buildings where you picked your medal up. They had all it was really a crazy time, but my kids got to be there for it, unfortunately, but you don't forget. And really it was a very hard time, and the stress level was very heavy to deal with at the time, but everybody got through it.
I can't imagine. And, thank God you were safe that day.
Yeah.
I mean, just a small
it was
few
just
minutes.
Yeah, small few
difference.
minutes. Difference could have been a lot of difference.
Wow. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, I don't really sit back and think of it that much, but sometimes when you do, you're like, wow, that's pretty crazy. We're all there.
Mm-hmm. So this is on that marathon, you had been running and operating 0600 conditioning for a while.
Yes.
When you moved to Melrose, I know that you did some training in Melrose, but then you also did some training on your own. Can you kind of go through a little bit about?
I worked for several different. Moved to Melrose, and then I'd done. When I started to pursue my training certifications, I worked with Marchese Physical Therapy. They were out of Winchester at the time, over at Boyle's, which is another Malden guy. Mike Boyle's training facility. I worked there for them with a little bit. I worked in Boston at Beantown Boot Camp for a little bit. And then I worked at Winchester Country Club for a little bit. They started their own fitness facility, and I went over there and worked and personal trained there for a bit.
Now, what type of personal training did you do at Winchester Country?
It would be basically, their members could ask for, fitness programs. They had just put in a brand new full gym. So I got to kind of help manage the facilities with them and get it up and going. Great experience.
So this is one of the, first jobs that you had?
That's probably one of the first jobs I had in the fitness industry. And then when I went to work with my friend in Beantown Boot Camp, he's like, you should just really run your own operation. You should just do it yourself. He goes, you have the knack, you have the skills, just do it. And then that's what I chose to do, was give it a shot, try it myself.
And how did that come to be? What was the first step in that?
The first step was getting a permit from the Park and Recs department to run it somewhere and convince them of the idea that I'm going to do this fitness early in the morning, either at your park or at somewhere. I'd prefer Mount Hood Golf Course so we could run up and down the hills and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, yeah, I guess so. Let's give you a permit. And that was it. They gave me the permit, and then that was it. And I did some personal training at my house at the time to kind of get moving in that direction too. The Parks Department of Melrose is always looking for something that benefits their city, their people. So it was really good. There was a lot of restrictions here and there you couldn't do, but it really worked really great. Yeah. So it started really, it's as grassroots as you can get. I mean, I took the money from my credit cards and bought the little bit of equipment I had and would load it in my truck.
And this is all while you're still maintaining National Grid.
Yep.
And by this time you have 3 children.
Two at this point.
Okay. And so you full-time job, 2 children, and now you're also doing this.
Yeah. I don't have a dog yet, so.
Do you sleep? Do you sleep?
A little bit, yeah. Okay. I sleep a little bit.
All right.
I'm an efficient sleeper is what I am. That's what I like to say.
And so you started with a handful of people, and it just grew and grew.
I think the first day there was 11 people. I still have the original roster somewhere, and it would be kind of kind of interesting to go back. But I know one of the individuals is from day one is still with me. Yeah.
What was it that made you want to train other people?
I felt like training other people was because everybody kind of struggled, and I struggled. And I kind of felt like, you know what? You don't need to struggle. You need to just start moving forward. Because every day is going to be a struggle, so why not just start moving forward? There's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days in anything. We know that. So why not just start moving forward? Let me help you move forward. Let me lower your expectations to start, and then let me say, well, this should be your next expectation. If you want to make progress in your fitness, seek out a professional. That's what they get paid for. It's like, going to a dentist or a doctor. You don't know how to take care of your own teeth, so you go to a dentist. So you've struggled all these years with a non-professional because you've read some magazine or you read some quick fix on the internet. Go to someone who's done it, who's lived it, who wants to show you how to do it and live it too, and expect for it to be learning, because everything about fitness is just one more thing to learn. And once you graduate college and after you get past your first job, there's nothing left to learn. Well, why not make this the thing to learn? Bar position, foot position, stretches you need to do. When do you need to hydrate? When do you need to eat? The learning doesn't have to stop, and that's the problem. That's where people's mind doesn't get stimulated anymore. You shouldn't be breathing heavy when you walk up 5 stairs, because someday you're going to be 60 and you don't want to be doing that. One of my guys who works with me, Jim, he's 65 years old. And every day if I have to work out with him, I have to bring it up to his level because he's pushing it up to my level. So you push each other. And, age isn't the factor that people I hate when people are like, oh, I'm much older than you. I'm like, no, you're not. You don't really know how old I am, So it's I like to challenge people, encourage people. Unfortunately, I don't probably take the softest route to do it, but I like to challenge people and encourage people to be like, you can do more than you think you can, because you can. I know you can. And I kind of can get that through people's minds eventually. Yeah, that's what fitness is about. Progress, continuous progress.
What led you to the location that I know now as 0600 Conditioning on Washington Street? What led you to actually get a location, take that next step?
What led me there was exhaustion. Exhaustion led me there because I was fortunate enough I could rent space at the First Universalist Unitarian Church on Franklin Street for very cheap money, but I'd have to take all my equipment in and out every night. So imagine 20 clients bringing in, whether even if it was a dumbbell workout, that's 20 dumbbells. You'd have to carry up 3 flights of stairs. With one, you could maybe carry 2 at a time. I got pretty good at carrying 3 at a time, but you could carry 2 at a time. So that would make 10 trips of dumbbells, kettlebells alone. That would make another trip of cones and another trip of jump ropes. So I could no longer leave. They wouldn't allow me to leave anything there. So I did that for 2 years in and out of the church. I just happened to be driving home one night, and I always thought, to be realistic with you, I'm not going to lie, that Marty's Furniture would be a great place for a brew pub.
Oh, okay.
Because it kind of fits the motif. But
Yeah.
I took a whim, and they had a sign for rent. So I remember I went in and met the owner, Joe, and was John. John and Joe are the owners of the building. And they're like, I don't know, we don't want any gym facility here. I'm like, come on, guys, you got to give me a chance. You got to give me a chance. And push came to shove. They knew my father. And
how did they know your father?
They knew my father from Joe was a big tennis player. My father used to string his racket.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So there again, there's how the connections.
Wow.
That everybody talks about connections in the world. That's what it was. So I said, okay. And they're like, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. Because, don't forget, they didn't know me from anybody. And I went in there and said, all right. And they're like, and this is what your rent's going to be. I'm like, yeah. And the rent was absolutely everything I've made at 0600 from day one. Like absolutely the money I had finally turned over from a profit from the equipment I bought to run 0600. I think I paid it off the week I started renting space, and it was exactly what I made to pay rent. Right. Don't tell my wife plus a couple hundred. I'd have to take it out of my own pocket. And then that was it. And then from there on, that's where it became the home base. And it actually worked very well because it's 800 feet from the trailhead of the Fellsway. So as ultra runners and trail runners, it was perfect. We've done a lot of things in the Fellsway with permits, of course. Permits,
sure.
We do. And it's just worked out very well that we've been there. And it's actually on one of the bigger running loops in Melrose. And now it's great. We have high school athletes who come whose parents are there. And it's become a mainstay in the industry in Melrose. We're the bad boys on the block in Melrose. That's how we are.
So when you first moved in there, it was bare. It was nothing than what it looks like now.
No. I had to paint it.
It was hardwood floors?
Hardwood floors. It looked like a dance hall. It was beautiful. It was hardwood floors. I forget what color was painted. I painted it, and then I stuck with keeping it. I have a little bit of flair for the architecture, so I brought some pull-up bars in, and I had welded up that looked like they always belonged there. And then it's grown from there. We didn't have squat racks at first. Now we have squat racks. We didn't have rowers. Now we have rowers. We have ski ergs. It's been a labor of love, and it always has been. And I swear it always will be. And if you came here, we really do have the knowledge of what you really need here in Melrose at a very reasonable rate.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you have a site. You have a website.
We have
right?
a website. Yeah,
It's at 0600.
0600conditioning.com, and you can reach me at 0600conditioning@gmail.com.
I always say 0600.
Yeah, it's 0600.
And I know you say 0600.
Yeah.
Where did
Military time.
Where did that come from?
That came from the first class I ever established at Winchester Country Club. They're like, we want you to run a fitness class in the morning. It was actually Bill Cummings of Cummings Property, and I said. He was the man in the corner at the Winchester Country Club. I said, what time do you want it to be, Bill? He goes, how about 0600? I go, military time, 0600? He goes, exactly. I go, and that's what it'll be.
And that just stuck with you.
I said, why try to reinvent the wheel? Like, that's what time it started.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. I like it. So you moved in to the building before... What it was, Jack Flats?
Before Jack Flats, yeah.
Jack Flats and the Washingtons.
Yep, none of that was there when I got that.
But
yeah.
all that came up.
Came up around me, yeah.
Came up around you. And I'm sure there's, probably some people.
Yeah, there's been a great influx of customers there because of that. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. It's funny because I had been to your place, but I never knew Marty's Furniture existed there.
Oh, it's an unbelievable. There's a lot of people end up there. It's a nice family-run business, a father, a son. The uncles work there. Like, it's just one of those, it's the American dream. That's the American dream business.
So I walked in there one day and I just went up the steps and I couldn't believe how large the place is.
10,000 square feet showroom. There's several businesses in there. There's an elevator business. And the whole building originally was the Converse rubber building. Like that.
Yes. So years ago, right?
Years ago, that's what it was. I think it's, I don't know exactly. There's a beautiful map on the back buildings lobby of what it actually was, and it's like 6 square acres, and it was all for Converse rubber.
Now, my old man told me that, and I don't know if this is part of Converse, but he said there was a building, and I don't know if it was that building or one right over, because I know that whole area was very industrial.
It kind of changed a little bit industrial-wise.
But they said they made caulking, some type of like a window caulking?
I think they did some kind of, like, it was big in the rubber industry and all that stuff, so I think they did some electronic stuff in there. They did, in my space alone, you can see the nails that they used to nail into the cobblers would be nailing into the shoes. And when they ripped down the other building, you could see the remnants of different like manufacturing they did in there of rubber stuff. And yeah, it was a big facility at the time. It was a big part of Melrose at the time. The train used to run directly back there. There was a train stop to bring the freight in. Like if you look on the old
it would stop right there?
It would stop there and bring the freight in and out of to Boston or wherever it was going. And my father's father actually left Pennsylvania to come to work for his buddy in Pennsylvania when they were working in the mines. Said, geez, I'm going to work for my uncle. He works for this place, Converse Rubber, and I'm going to go work for Converse Rubber. And like, that's what brought my family to Melrose. Yeah, not to Melrose, but actually brought my family to Malden from Pennsylvania, and that's where they came to work at Converse Rubber.
The same building that brought your whole family
here is where I ended up renting. Yeah, it's like
years later.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Crazy. You just don't realize like that's how it goes. Like, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
It's a really pretty.
Does
building.
that kind of like?
Yeah, sometimes I do think about it, like, wow, that's a little crazy. Like, at one point, my aunts came and visited my space. It was my father with his 2 sisters in my space, and they're like, this is where Grandpa used to work. I'm like, what?
So this is on your father's side?
My father's side of the family, yeah.
Yeah, when your mother's side of the family, also Pennsylvania?
No, my mother's side of the family, they're actually from originally up in Gloucester in Scotland, and they gravitated down, and my grandfather worked for MIT and then Lincoln Labs for years and worked on the first computer at Lincoln Labs.
No kidding.
Yeah. The Whirlwind Project, which was ship-to-shore radio.
So just a whole line and family of underachievers.
Yes.
Really likes to,
well, none of us went anywhere. We just worked for other people that went somewhere.
No. Listen, you have a tremendous accomplishments. Not the least is just even having a family. Bringing them up here in Melrose,
that's the American dream.
Children.
That's the American dream.
That's
the family,
an accomplishment right
owning
there.
Your own business and going to work every day, and in this country.
So how has Melrose changed since you moved here?
I think it's gotten a little bit nicer all over. Like everything is a little bit cleaner. The houses, are getting nicer and everything's well kept better. The school system really has stepped up the mark. It looks great. We have new schools since I've come here. I mean, I've been here for the new middle school, the new school down on, Wyoming Ave. Mount Hood has changed.
Sure.
It's been like, it's just really changed in a nice, even direction. Melrose has. I feel like it's just a nice community town, and not too many towns you can walk from your house to downtown. Like, there's not too many towns you can do that. Like,
Sure. Right. I love the Main Street area.
It's great. I mean,
and I hope it doesn't end up being kind of a Walmart.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I think it's struggling with some parking issues, as every downtown struggles and every city struggles with these things. I think there's a diligent people who have been here a long time, who don't intend on leaving, who want to maintain a certain way of life here in Melrose, and it seems to be going that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mount Hood, and I've been to an area of Mount Hood, just right as you get to the main area of Mount Hood, and it's beautiful. But I haven't been to, I think is it just called the Tower? The
tower is way up the very top. It looks out over the ocean.
I've got to get over there. But you were telling me,
and then I used to take my dog through the back part of the woods there, down by Swain's Pond. There's just so much up there. Like, you just don't even realize. You're like, people are in a big rush to go. Oh, I need to go to the White Mountains, or I need to go up to Vermont to see this. But just go spend 2 hours walking through the woods in the town I'm actually a trail steward for the city of Melrose, so we're involved in marking all the trail systems and walking through there and keeping them free. And Melrose has an unbelievable trail system so close to your house to walk your dog, to just go for a walk and be out in nature. It's just a beautiful... There's a lot of good wooded sections here in Melrose that aren't like just scrub grass. They're really nice. And
you were telling me a little bit of the history of the tower, or something about...
the tower was built during the big work project. Same with the walls around Wyoming Cemetery, and it was just built there. And then also years ago during World War II, there's a plaque up there. That's the only reason I know that a plane crashed up there, like a transport plane on its way back from World War II, or in the midst of World War II, and some guy saved their lives. And yeah, it was up there. It used to be a radio tower up there, and the FAA actually has radio towers up there. So it's part of the grid to keep, the communications throughout the country on tap for what's going on up there.
I will be there when
it's a great place just to go walk on a summer day, winter day, and it's nice to see there's some deer population come back there, and they get to roam around free, and big deer too, big deer up there.
Well, listen, Jeff, I can't thank you enough for being here for the first time. I do have some end of the interview questions that I like. You ever see the Actor Studio? This is my version of the Actor Studio, but it's focused on Melrose. Since the key theme here is community, creating connections, I wanted to ask you a couple questions.
Sure, let's have them.
What is your favorite local business in Melrose?
And I would have to say my favorite business in Melrose, I really do enjoy Petroni's.
Petroni's?
Yeah, okay. I think he's a great guy. He always stands behind the sports teams. His food's always good quality. And I think I would have to say that would be my number one business.
And can you eat nutritionally healthy food that's on your diet?
You have to make the right choices. That's all you have to do.
Very good. What would you most love to see in Melrose in the future?
I would like to see Melrose have a triathlon.
Very nice. Like full triathlon, or
not a full, but an Olympic distance triathlon. Not too many towns can support it with the water system. We have a water system that could support it. We have a road system that could support it, and a running system that could support it. And it's not because I would like to run it, because maybe it's above me. I think Melrose is missing out on a huge endeavor to bring high caliber people to this town who want to see that and want to race in their own hometown.
What would you love to improve about Melrose?
I would like to see Melrose really stand behind, and I'm a little biased because I think it's an industry that needs to be addressed. Melrose stand behind their own fitness of their residents. Like I remember I was down in a town in Virginia, and the town had their own town-based gym. Like, I think that would be a great thing at Mount Hood or Braycard, or not Mount Hood, I mean Mount Hood or Pine Banks, to have a town run and funded gymnasium type setup. I know we have the Y, but a bigger scale than like really, really encourage that. There's a lot of splinter fitness businesses in Melrose. I'd rather see them all come together as one and learn to work as one for the benefit of the town, and make this be known as the next Boulder, Colorado. And like, because Boulder's known for being a big, healthy town. Like that would be a big buy for the city of Melrose.
What is your favorite scenic spot in Melrose?
That's very interesting, because I would lead to say anywhere up at Mount Hood, coming from behind the pond, following the Mount Hood Trail, up across to the tower, and then down the Pipeline Trail. I think people don't get to experience that in all 4 seasons, and a dog off leash would be great to experience that with. I think that'd be a great thing for people to see.
Jeff,
a lot of people don't go there.
I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Justin, has been great. I'm glad we've got this up and running. I think it has nothing but potential for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Let's hope this thing rocks.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody.
All right.
Good job, pal. Good job.